Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Show on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by the Believe Sports Network. My name is Joe Miller, and you can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, alongside my two co-hosts, former Buffalo Bills offensive linemen John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski. You can find them respectively on Twitter at Ostrowski_Big O and at John Fina. It is so good to have every single one of you guys joining us right now. Welcome to everybody who is live in the chat comment section. We got a husband and wife team. Amanda and Scott are in the chat section right now, along with a whole bunch of other folks. So good to have every single one of you joining us. Please do us a favor. Please like, please subscribe, whatever platform you are consuming this on, whether live or in post as a podcast. Please like, please hit the subscribe button. Please tell a friend. If you can leave a review, do all that good stuff. So good to have every single one of you. We're going to talk based off of the show we had last week. We're going to talk this week about just what we expect, or what I would say John and Jerry expect from a build off of last year kind of scenario. But before we offensively, but before we get to that, gentlemen, how has your week been? How are you guys doing? Jerry, how you feeling?
I'm great, man. I actually say I'm great. I'm really sad right now. I mean, it's terrible. I took my two youngest to camp today. They're going to be gone for a week, and my wife left this morning for a 3-day trip with her girlfriends to the lake. I don't know how I'm going to function all by myself in this big old house. I don't know.
Oh, poor guy.
And we got people diving behind John's back in the camera. That's pretty funny.
Well, look, I got to be honest, guys. You know, I'm in Buffalo. Joe, we played golf today.
Yes, we did.
I played golf yesterday in Rochester. We're
going from golf tomorrow.
To activity. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's Buffalo, New York, and it's almost 10 o'clock at night. It's still light out, and you guys are calling me. You're like, you jumping on? And I'm like, holy cow, is it 9 o'clock already?
Yeah, was that
I'm having the time of my life, Jerry. I'm not crying like you and all alone. I'm with loved ones everywhere. It's great.
I was at a grad party in Lancaster, and the host of the party was like, everybody's got to stay till sunset. And I'm like, that's not happening. Sunset's like 9:30. Not happening. I'm not watching the sunset. I got a podcast to do and all kinds of other stuff. But with that, let's kick the tires on this thing and have a little bit of a conversation just around this Buffalo Bills offense as we press further into the dead season of the NFL season. Effectively, this is the time when literally nothing happens because everybody is on their final vacation before the training camp actually officially starts and the season actually gets underway. But we want to look at today, and it was birthed off of the conversation we were having last week, as you guys probably remember, just around the offense and what do we expect. Every year we see a different version of the Buffalo Bills offense. You know, even when it was with Brian Daboll and then to Ken Dorsey, it didn't get better. And then obviously Joe Brady has done some really, really good things, but the offense felt like it looked completely different this year. And I'm going to give you guys some numbers. But even Brian Daboll morphed and made changes because apparently you can't stay the same every year, even though those early 90s Bills would probably tell you could in some respects. And I'm always clamoring for the 2020 Buffalo Bills that basically just lost their minds and destroyed teams as far as point-wise goes. But I would love to get your guys' opinions as we kind of go through this, just with what you feel like you saw last year that is something that Joe Brady can begin to mix in other stuff or build off of. Before I do that, though, 2024, just to give you guys some numbers, and stop me if anything out here like that comes up from a number standpoint, like tickles your fancy, and you're like, oh, hang on a second, I want to talk about that. So first of all, 2024, total offensive plays by the Buffalo Bills for 2024 was 1,025 total offensive plays. In 2023, 1,115 yards per game, or I should say total yards rather for the season, 6,168 in 2024 and 6,518 in 2023. Now, that probably isn't anything super great. I gave you those numbers just to kind of give you an idea that like just the similarity between the two. I think what stuck out to me was effectively passing completions and attempts. In 2024, 329 for 520. In 2023, 385 for 579. So 579 in 2023, 520. It didn't feel like there were almost as many passing attempts in 2024 as there were in 2023, at least in my opinion. And then rushing, this was the one too, rushing attempts, 2024, 491, 2023, 512.
Yeah.
How does that How does that? Because it felt like we were very run heavy, sent this year, and it's
more efficient, more impactful. I
Yeah.
think is really the telltale there. And then going back to the previous stat, I mean the one thing about both these stats you have to take in consideration is the second highest scoring offense, right?
Yes.
So
I can give you the score. So yeah, that's the one. The last stat that I did want to give you: total points per game, 2024, 30.9. In 2023, 26.5. Now we know that obviously there was a offensive coordinator fired in 2023. Right, they had a little bit of trouble getting going early in 2023, but yeah, that's significantly different. That's a full 4 points difference per game, which 4 points is a score, right? A field goal.
Well, I mean, you're talking about the best offense in the history of the franchise.
Yes,
was this past season. So it's kind of, I mean, that's your comparison right there off the bat. You've got the best offense statistically in the history of the franchise. You're comparing other things. Now, when you look at this team and how does it build to the next year, I think there's a couple obvious areas. And, this is going to be a running football team. They're going to run the ball. Whoever it is back there behind Josh Allen, that's what they want to do. You maybe like to see some running backs get involved in some other things, but the two biggest areas of the offense this year anyway that have to get better is vertical passing game, which is everything 20 yards and above. And then the other thing is, and it goes kind of in conjunction with vertical passing game, is how do you get Kincaid heated up and involved in the offense? And those are kind of the two areas. I think vertical passing game 20 plus, they tried to, they try to pull a rabbit out of their hat by taking Cooper from the Browns. That didn't work out. He has the injury and so forth. Kincaid obviously had injuries as well. The wide receiver room better than it was last year. Palmer's better. Elijah Moore's better. Keon has kind of embraced what he is, which is a big physical wide receiver. You see that in the offseason. He comes back in. He's, put some weight on, got size back on, and he's decided to go back, with what makes him great, which is being a bully. And, you have to figure it out because this is a weird thing about the Bills in the vertical passing game. They weren't very good, but yet they were fifth in the league in attempts over 20 yards.
Right.
Okay. So It's just like you said earlier, it's like, I thought we were this big power running team, and yet we had less attempts than we did in 24.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is how do you get, Josh more comfortable and more accurate throwing the ball downfield, these receivers, Dalton Kincaid. And then I think with having some sort of threat past 20 yards, it opens a lot of other things up for the Bills to get involved with, because right now you would think it should open up anyway, because the way they run the football, the numbers in the box are going to be so that you want to throw the ball downfield. You're going to have limited people in pass coverage because they're trying to play the run and stop the run. So, we'll see how this evolves.
Yeah.
So
before I'm researching real quick just to kind of see from a rushing standpoint for Josh Allen, just because somebody could make the argument, well, Josh Allen ran a lot more in 2023. Josh Allen had 111 rushing attempts in 2023. He had 102 in 2024. So he was not the person that swayed that balance. So go ahead, John.
That's actually an interesting stat, right? Effective with the run, as always, Josh Allen. And the risk of you throwing out that question is that Jerry steals all my thunder, which of course he did, right? Because my number one is vertical passing game. Yeah. Very clearly, we picked up pieces to do that, right? Between Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore, Shakir, Dalton Kincaid getting stronger. But my number two varies a little bit different than Jerry. And I think once you can expand the field like that, then you really open up the screen game. And I know the screen game has been something of a concern for Bills fans, for probably even the team. Like, why can't we run a damn screen, right? But if you can press the field, if you get the DBs thinking field stretch, that opens it up to slot screen, traditional back out of the backfield type screens, wider screen game. So that's what I think. It's kind of hand in hand. If you can raise the defense, push them back, you're going to open things up. And a lot of people, as offensive linemen, Jerry and I are like, hey, we got 6 yards. That's like a phenomenal play. And I think from the fan perspective, a phenomenal play is anything 12, 14, 15 plus. But if we could stretch the field, pop the ball out either at the line of scrimmage or a few behind and get 6 or 7 or 8 yards, then you kind of have the defense saying, well, shit, we gotta defend depth and we got to defend underneath. And I think that's a really great compliment to the concept of getting vertical and stretching and exposing the middle of the field in a vertical aspect.
Yeah, it seemed like when you taking into consideration what you said, the Bills actually did get better last year from a screen standpoint, but there's always room for improvement. I guess the question that I would have, and I want to open it up to the comment section on YouTube Live as well right now. So if there's anybody on our YouTube channel that has a question around what you watched last year, and you have questions offensively for the guys going into this year outside of the obvious, is James Cook going to play? Like, we don't want to answer that question. James Cook showed up for mandatory minicamp. He's going to show up for training camp. He's going to play this year. But if you got questions around just formations and style of offense and what we've seen, where they can get better, or where you think or possibly have a question about getting better, we would love to have you throw those questions into the comments section. So I guess the question for me is, one thing the Bills love is that bunch set, right? That bunch wide receiver set. There's some other, obviously the 2 tight end set is real big with them. So when you look at what they've done in the past, what do you see, Jerry, as far as what do you see them building off of and maybe taking that formation and doing something different, whether it is with a Kincaid or the new Hawes kid or even Dawson Knox or something like that? But just curious, some thoughts around formations, what we've seen in the past and where they could possibly go with them.
I think the biggest thing with the Bills is they've been real reliant upon that Alec Anderson, and before him it was Edwards, that big offensive line set where they run the football out of. But it kind of limits you in some of the things you can do play action wise. And as well as we run the ball, I would think that we would be actually a little bit better, or we would run a little more play action than we actually do. I don't think we run as much play action as people think. Mm-hmm. And Josh does run play action well. But I think we're limited a lot of times in some of what we do because of our just persistence on jumbo type sets. If you can get Hawes coming along, and like I said, it's the one thing about him, I know that he wasn't drafted or was thought of as a pass catching tight end, but I can guarantee you he can catch the ball better than a extra offensive lineman in the game, right? But also give you really good superior blocking at that position, something that we're iffy on. We don't have a really strong end of line blocker at tight end or a guy that can come off the ball in the H position and things in the wing. Maybe he brings that along. So I think if you look at the offense, besides the obvious, which is vertical passing game, right? And if these receivers can do what they need to do, that should get better. But I guess the other area that I would probably lean upon would be it'd be surrounded or kind of correlated in with play action pass and involving running backs a little more as far as passing game goes. Because, I don't think we're as complex as people really believe we are. Like, especially in pass protection. We run a lot of basic 5-man stuff, and if they bring somebody extra, they let the quarterback figure out how to get away from them. I mean, we gave up 11 sacks last year, but we did have a lot of pressures. And we just so happen to have a guy back there that can handle that. And sometimes I think it's almost like a game plan thing that they're make one miss and we'll be fine. And Josh usually makes one miss. So I would say that's probably the biggest thing is how do you build this offensive passing game off of that superior running game next year as we move forward?
Hey, John, I got a question for you. Last year we saw the Buffalo Bills really take advantage of and use the athletic ability of the offensive line by pulling Deion Dawkins and pulling Spencer Brown and pulling these guys across the face of the quarterback during after the snap of the ball. Is that how do you build off of something once you've gone down that road? How do you go back to just playing standard sets, or is that something that you continue to build off of to keep defenses on their toes?
Kind of taking what Jerry said in response to your question, if you take Hawes and you put him in the position of Alec Anderson off the ball, and you use him as a motion piece in the opposite direction where we're running that split zone kind of concept, you can build play action off of that. So it's a strong offense having Alec Anderson on the field, but as Jerry said, you're not going to put him out in the flat and throw the ball to him. You don't have a great deal of confidence in that. Not that he won't catch the ball, but that if it's red and he has to actually beat a guy and get himself open, he doesn't have the skill set that an athlete who is an actual Y has, right?
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of our play action, and it looks like we run a lot of it, but some of it is just kind of a nod, like, oh, just a quick fake here, and it doesn't really sell.
I agree.
Right? I would say 50% of it is true play action where we're really trying to freeze the linebackers. You bring a stronger tight end in, whether it's Dalton Kincaid getting bigger and stronger and playing well, or the rookie who, shows up and kicks a lot of butt, and you're going to put a lot of trust in him. You actually can run play action where you're dedicating, like, this is a handoff. You pull it out, and maybe Hawes sits back and he picks up that sixth guy coming, and then you leak Dawson Knox or Dalton Kincaid out a little bit late in the seam right behind the linebackers. So I think Joe Brady's really got a good feel for evolving the offense. And to what you said earlier, you can't do the same thing over and over and over, but you still want to use those same plays. You just have you have to have something to build off it and elaborate off of. And I think having a guy, whether it's Alec Anderson or Hawes, at the ready who can sell it, gives us that little extra dimension to build and evolve off the current offensive plan.
I think kind of evolving off of that, you also have to kind of look at this aspect of it as well. And I think that when you run play action and you run a heavy amount of it, and like I said, Josh does do it pretty well, you've got to trust these receivers to win and get where they're supposed to be. And I'm not necessarily sure there was as much trust last year that you would hope to have. So because of that, I think Buffalo's answer to play action was more along the lines, if you look at advanced analytics and things, they were a pretty heavy RPO team, run pass option stuff. So instead of running a traditional play action, they kind of, because you think about this, when Josh takes a snap and it's an RPO, his eyes are forward the entire time. So he's seeing it, he makes his reaction. And I think that's a big thing as far as you asked that question, Joe, and it very open-ended. And, what do we expect out of this offense this year? Where can it go? I think the next level of evolution continues to be Josh, and can he build on what he did last year, which was playing in the system. And now you hear what he talks about this offseason, trusting his eyes, reading getting his reads, all that stuff, the mental side of it, to go with his exceptional arm strength. And, because he's such right now a see it and throw guy as opposed to a read it quarterback. So I think if we get that thing, as it progresses, a lot of that's going to be Josh's maturation as well as he goes through his career.
So this is a question from Andy, and it's funny because I want to ask another question based on what both of you are kind of saying. Andy asked the question, with Moore and Palmer as proven separators, could we see more 11 personnel and spread sets, which would actually be going back in time, right, to more of the Brian Daboll years? But it sounds to me like you guys are in a space of like 3 tight end sets.
No. We're addressing the play action concept, how to dedicate, really sell it, and expose that type of personnel, accentuate the type of personnel that's on the field vis-a-vis run, play action. But that's a great question. And I think that when you have these, and I truly believe that we picked up 2 really, really great potential players in Palmer and Moore. I don't disagree that what I think is on 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, we're going to have a great deal more confidence going to 11 and getting those guys who are going to separate. Not to say that we still don't have to evolve in our plan and the passing tree and the route running and separation and things of that nature, because Jerry would probably agree, we suffered with not as much separation as we would like to see. So I do believe we'll see a little bit more 11.
See, I'm a combo guy. I think the biggest thing the Bills don't do enough of is tempo. And I would be in 12 that easily turns to 11
with Dalton Kincaid.
Yes, I would be in tempo, and so I would be going from ace or 12 personnel. That's what we would call 12 personnel, folks, is ace, 2 tight ends and 1 back, or 12 if you want to be one of the cool kids, or go to trips, which is 11, again, cool kids term. But it would be no huddle tempo with Dalton Kincaid going from slot to inside and manipulate the defense and get the matchups we want, because they can't make substitutions because we're sitting in no huddle. That to me is something I wish we would do much, much more of. And it's something I think we'll do some, but I get it. Our running game's great, but we can do our running game can still be great in 11, 12 combo personnel as well.
Yes.
I just wish we would do more of that.
I don't think there's anybody that has watched the Buffalo Bills in the Josh Allen era that could literally say that they're the same team or marginally a little worse in up tempo than Josh Allen is a much better, as good as he is, he's a better quarterback up tempo. Yeah. I'm with you 100%. It's interesting to me when we think about the drafting of Hawes, when you've got Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And I know I kind of talked about the 3 tight ends. I guess, would that be 13 personnel? What would that even be? I don't even know.
It would be. It'd be 13.
It would be. So I guess the question is what can you do from a trick standpoint? What can you do in the sense of having Dalton Kincaid on the field, Dawson Knox, Hawes line up on the ends in a bunch set with, and then bringing him in, running out of it, or vice versa, 3 tight ends on the line with the line of scrimmage, and then breaking Dalton Kincaid out or Dawson Knox. It feels like you could create some mismatches there with the talent that it looks like we may have in those 3. No?
Yeah. Well, so if you think back to Peyton Manning and Edgerrin James,
yes,
right? They were 12 personnel, 2 tights, Edgerrin James, long, wide handoffs, give it to Edgerrin, expand the defense, right? Edgerrin finds an opening, or Peyton pulls it. He either boots it out or he pulls it and move the pocket, throw it downfield. If you add Jackson Hawes as an H behind a 12 formation, you have the ability to do what everybody likes to say they think they can see. You motion them across the formation. You're going to decide whether it's zone or man. That gives you a variety of running plays, power to the side he's going, or go in the other direction, weak zone with an extra cutoff guy in the backfield, or he, kind of does an orbit situation where he motions across the formation, he comes back, and we run ISO. And I think we have the kind of guys up front right now where we're built for a little bit of power ISO running game. And looking back at the film at Georgia Tech, I mean, this kid Hawes can really find his defender. And what I'm saying about that is a lot of people think, oh, well, Deion Dawkins pulls across the formation. All he has to do is make a left-hand turn, find the linebacker, front him up. But as the play progresses, everybody gets bigger and things start to disappear. And having a guy like him who can wrap and get on his linebacker is incredibly huge. You can keep the backside tackle for a pin cutoff block, pull the guard, and you have a much more secure front to expose a smaller gap to really press and go forward to pick up 5 or 6.
Right.
I think there are a lot of things you could do with that formation. You can send both tight ends out. You can have Jackson Hawes read most dangerous either linebacker or corner coming off the edge or up the middle, and you've basically got more or less max protection with 6 guys and 2 strong pass catchers running up the seam.
But honestly, and nobody said anything, and I agree with Scott Blakely here earlier, and if I can find his comment, I might not be able to. Yeah, here it is right here. I agree with Scott. I mean, I like Dawson Knox as well. Do I love him? Do I want to marry him? No, I don't. But I do like his. Didn't you ever do that as a kid?
Yeah, we did. But I hadn't gone there in so many years.
I love chocolate milkshake.
I was going Beyonce. If you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it. Go, Jared, go.
Why don't you marry it?
It
would be kind of cool to marry a chocolate milkshake. But anyway,
what does it identify as? Sorry, don't go there.
You put Kincaid. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. you put Kincaid and Knox on the field at the same time, and I think, look, I like Jackson Haas too, but let's face facts, he's still a rookie. He's got a lot to prove, and we'll see how he goes. But yeah, we've got good tight ends, and so that's part of the process of getting them more involved in the passing game.
Yeah. Scott Blakely also asked a question, which I thought was good for the two of you to possibly answer. And I probably would expound upon it. Do you think our O-line can be better than last year, which would be elite, of course, but more or less, if you're going to grind this down, where can they get better?
I'd say our guards probably have some deficiencies. I think our right guard, while he's a road grader, he has some problems with athletic D linemen. He'll lose some one-on-one stuff against athletic guys. Torrance, so he could work on that. I think Edwards gets overpowered. He's the opposite. I think he's good against athletes, but gets overpowered by strong guys. So he can work on that. And like I said earlier, they did give up some pressures last year, even though we only gave up 11 sacks. They did give up some pressures, and they got to clean that up. And a lot of that is up the middle. It's Torrance, Edwards, and McGovern had his first season at center. While I thought it was admirable, he played well. He still has some things to work on too as he gets used to being inside. So probably a little bit up the middle, clean some things up in pass protection and all that, and they could play better than they did last year.
Yeah, I agree with Jerry, but I think as a traditional viewer would look, it's like shaving the Parmesan, right? It's so thin. There's so much little that you can just say, oh my God, that guy's immensely better than he was last year. You're just not going to have that. You're going to have moments where, they have an improvement from last year, but borderline somewhat imperceptible to most people. Right. And I think the shorter answer to the question is, if we don't have a fall back, if we don't have a guy who kind of slumps, I'm good. I mean, everybody's always trying to get better. Everybody has their little deficiencies, but if they perform as well as they did last year, I think that's pretty damn good.
I want to pull this up real quick, Joe. Andy asked another good question. With the mandatory minicamp showing the guys practicing the pistol formation, how can this help us with defenses? Okay. Here's how this can help us. First of all, if you put a running back behind the quarterback, when he takes the handoff, he's coming downhill, so he's got quite a bit of momentum. I would say that a guy like Ray Davis would be better out of the pistol because he's more of a slasher type of running back. James Cook, I think he's better lined up in the traditional next to the quarterback. Because here's what happens if I'm Josh Allen and I have James Cook lined up to my left, that running play, you're going to put the ball out here. It's got to come across the face of the quarterback. So you're kind of telling the defense where the ball's going to go unless you have a built-in back play or whatever that we've talked about. And I know John's talked about on off tackle quite a bit that we do run where we let the defense think it's one way and then the back automatically goes back. But the thing that does is when the back is lined up left, the defense is going to slant away from the running back because they're predicting that running play to go that way. But what it does do, it allows that center and backside guard to trap that tackle inside, which is what James Cook is so good at patience-wise. Deion Dawkins walls his guy off or Spencer walls his guy off. Backside guard pins. James will come downhill, hesitate, then hop back behind the backside guard. So there's kind of theories in both. Pistol disguises which way you're going to run the ball, and it gives the back a little bit of momentum. But some of these backs, like James Cook, are better, and they're kind of hesitation-type runners and patient runners. It's almost better to have them lined up next to the quarterback because it gives some tells with what that D-line is going to do. So I hope that answered your question.
Yep. Go ahead, John.
So here's when I really like the pistol. I like the pistol when it's deep into the game, defensive linemen are tired, you've established a running game, but now you just want to pound it. And part of pounding that is what Jerry was talking about. When you're in the pistol, you're taking the handoff, you're already running downhill. So when you feel like you own the defensive front and you can impose your will, we loved this with Thurman. We would just get into guys, get body on them, and lean on them late in the game, and they were just too tired. And this is a fact. I don't care what anybody says. Late in the game, guys get tired. And the more success you have with the run game, the worse it is on the defensive front. So pistol, downhill, especially in situations where we have a lead, where we're running the ball, and we want to basically impose our will on them.
Yeah, very good. It's actually surprising. Do either of you find it surprising that they didn't, unless there's a Van Pran Granger plan there, which we talked about months ago around draft time, that Edwards is the plan at left guard, that's at this point, that's the direction they're going. Surprised at all that there isn't even a battle there. There isn't a team that loves camp battles and loves competition at all positions. There isn't really, doesn't seem like there's one at left
But
guard.
you just had the most historic offensive season in the franchise's history with David Edwards starting at left guard. Why do we want to run David Edwards out?
And there will be a battle. And if anybody thinks that you're not battling for your position every year in camp, you're crazy. Yeah. But Cedric would really have to do wildly better to displace David at that position. There's just no two ways about it.
David Edwards is a guy on that team that has a Super Bowl ring.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
But, I think probably more telling than are we going to have a Cedric Van Pran Granger battle with Edwards is when McGovern was out at camp, in mini camp, Van Pran Granger was running with the number ones as a center. Right. So, that's the biggest thing is, does he progress this camp and in the preseason to where the Bills feel awful comfortable if like, hey, we decide we want to sign James Cook and we don't want to get rid of a young guy like Torrance. Maybe the expendable guy is McGovern because we got a guy on the roster who's a lot cheaper that can play just as good, maybe over time better. So I think I think Van Pran Granger is definitely in their long-term plans, Joe. And I think you're right to believe that he's a guy that could probably give him a play as a swing man and give him guard minutes too. But, we critique guys, we talk about Edwards and different things, and, his limitations will probably not have him re-sign next year. But he's still a very good player that does good things for Buffalo in the scheme that they run.
Yeah.
So.
And just for everybody, so when Jerry talks about historic offense for the Buffalo Bills, which they were last year, they scored more than 30 points, 8 straight games, which was tied the NFL record. I think they were close on the 9th. As far as total points for Josh Allen's teams, it was 30.9 last year per game. And in 2020, it was 31.3. All the other years were in that 28 kind of range as far as that goes. They've lived in this high 20s, low 30s kind of space. Again, I guess final question for the show. Is that a space you guys see them kind of living in again this year? Like, do you see points coming in buckets for this football team?
There's only one thing that could happen that would lead them to not do that. And I don't even want to say it.
Shh.
Oh my God.
John's looking for
because it just happened in Game 7 of the NBA Finals to the Pacers. I don't even want to talk about it.
Right.
I agree.
Just showstopper.
Let me put it this way. I think we are set up more completely than we have ever been. And that's without, and I know Jerry's going to throw up in his mouth a little bit, without a wide receiver one, so to speak. But I think that we are set up. We have depth and breadth at every position on the offense where we need it. I just, call me a homer, say I'm Pollyanna, whatever you want. I just objectively look at this team and think what really matters is how well can we deliver some creativity against the defenses where we need it.
Right. Game
plan and execute, stay healthy.
Yeah. Do you agree with Pollyanna, Jerry?
I do. I'm trying to figure out Andy. We should have a show with Andy today because he's got me intrigued. He likes the bigger center. Van Pran Granger's 6'4", 310 pounds. I don't know. I didn't know that wasn't big, but I know what you're getting at, Andy, as far as, McGovern's probably a longer kind of runs, probably a little bit more, but Cedric is a brawler. So if you want to talk about styles, I'll go with styles, but I won't go with size.
Yeah,
not picking on you, just bringing that point up.
I gotta tell you, I think that size, and he might be 6'3" 3/4, Jerry. Come on, be fair. he's the type of guy.
You weren't 6'5". You're right.
When your guy next to you needs a little help and he doesn't see him coming, I think I see Cedric coming up under that rib cage a little bit better and delivering that blow.
Cedric's a head-up-nose, dirtbag, old-school center. He's probably not as good on the second level as McGovern is. McGovern's probably runs better than Cedric, but as far as a guy that's going to go and punch people in the mouth and all that stuff, I mean, hell, the guy was the captain of the Georgia Bulldogs for 3 years. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, it's actually going to be great. He's probably one of the players to really look at in this preseason for the 3 games that the Bills are going to play, just to see what he looks like, his reps, and kind of like, how he takes those as far as that goes, because we haven't seen a whole lot of him even in spell time last year, like when the starters were being pulled. So,
but again, it's going to come down to, that's another position where Josh will give his yes, you're going to re-sign McGovern, or no, you're not. I'm sure he'll be the one that makes that decision.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts before I get us up on out of here?
No.
Feeling good, man.
Good.
Feeling good.
Awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Tune in next week. Well, tune in Wednesday for the Big O Show, as always. And then next week, we're going to flip the side of the football. We're going to talk about defensive expectations, as there's still, obviously some questions around that defensive squad. And we laid into it a little bit last week, and we're going to talk more about it next week here as the offseason progresses. But thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Overreaction Sports Show, on the Overreaction Sports Network, powered by the Believe Sports Network. My name is Joe. That is Jerry, and that is John. And we appreciate you guys joining us. We will talk to you guys soon. Love you guys. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.
Talk to you guys soon. Go Bills.